Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time to continue on with the football alphabet series where I profile some of the best clubs and players whose names/surnames begin with a specific letter. And today it is the 11th letter of the alphabet, but the 16th letter of our alphabet because we're doing it backwards, because that's the way I decided to do it for whatever reason, to be featured. And that is of course the letter K. If you want to check out any of the other episodes that I've done thus far, the playlist link, as always, is in the description down below. And whilst you're here, drop a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. But without any further ado, here is my Hall of Fame of the best clubs whose names begin with the letter K. Number 1. Kaizer Chiefs. No, I'm not covering the band of virtually the exact same name, although the Kaizer Chiefs with an S did actually decide upon their name in honour of Lucas Red Davey, a South African centre-back who played for Leeds, the club which all the band members support, in the early 2000s, and who had started out his career at South African team Kaizer Chiefs, with a Z it must be noted. The club's origins stem from Kaizer Motaung, a former player of their now fierce rivals Orlando Pirates, who came back from playing in America with the Atlanta Chiefs in 1969. Motaung tried to resolve a dispute that was ongoing between members of the Pirates, but without any success, so he broke away from them and made a Kaizer 11, who were very successful in the matches that they played, and from there, Motaung decided to turn it into a proper professional team in 1970, amalgamating his own first name and the last name of the team he'd played for in the US. Although they were skeptically viewed by outsiders right from the get-go, the Chiefs laid their marker down almost immediately, winning South Africa's equivalent to the FA Cup, the Nedbank Cup, in 1971 and 1972, and then the league in 1974. Sadly, in 1976, their manager at the time, Evad Nene, whilst attempting to sign talented winger Nelson Dladla, was murdered by one of Dladla's teammates who didn't want to see him depart the club, leading Motaung to take on more administrative responsibility. But he is still the chairman of the club to this day. His dream of turning his team into the most successful and popular in South Africa has undoubtedly become true, as the Chiefs have won 78 major trophies in just 51 years of existence, including 41 domestic cup trophies, which is a record, and 12 league titles, another record. Although unlike with the Pirates, they haven't won the CAF Champions League just yet, reaching their first final in 2021, but losing to Egyptian giants Al Ahly. One of the most tragic days in the club's history came in 2001, when during a game with Orlando Pirates, their stadium, Soccer City, famous for hosting the 2010 World Cup final, was reportedly filled with as much as double as what it could hold at the time, namely around 120,000 people, and in the rush of people trying to get into the stadium, 43 were killed, an event which occurred just 10 years after 42 others lost their lives in a different game between the two. Number 2. Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock are a club steeped in tradition in Scotland for one key reason. They are, officially, the oldest professional football club in Scotland, provided of course you discount Queen's Park, given that they relinquished their amateur status not that long ago, having come into being in 1869 when a group of cricketers wanted something to do during the winter months, which is quite a common theme amongst football clubs that were founded in those days. They were one of 8 clubs who helped form the Scottish FA and took part in the inaugural Scottish Cup in 1873-74, playing in its first ever match against Renton, although they lost. They were inducted into the Scottish League system in 1895, and after back-to-back second-tier titles, they were finally elected to the Scottish top flight in 1899, and ever since then, they've only spent 22 seasons outside of it. The vast majority of them came during the 1970s and 1980s, when they even dropped as far down as the 3rd tier, but despite all of the seasons they have spent in the Scottish Premier League, they've only ever won it once. That came in 1964-65, after finishing second in 4 of the previous 5 seasons, when they managed to beat direct title rivals Hearts on the final day of the campaign by the necessary 2 goals that they needed to leapfrog them and win the league by 0.042 goal average. Furthermore, they've only been able to lift 4 domestic cups in their entire history, namely 3 Scottish Cups, most recently in 1997, and 1 Scottish League Cup back in 2012, and in their only European Cup campaign, in 1965-66, they were knocked out in the first round by eventual winners Real Madrid. Their most recent venture into Europe came in 2019-20 after finishing in 3rd in the Scottish Premier League in their 150th year of existence, although they were eliminated in the first round of the Europa League by Welsh outfit Connors Quays Nomads. Number 3. Copenhagen. Whilst I am aware that in English they are called FC Copenhagen, given the relative lack of choice for clubs beginning with K as opposed to C, I decided to include them by their actual Danish spelling. They are actually the result of a merger between KB, the most successful team in Danish league history with 15 titles to their name and apparently the oldest team in Europe outside of the British Isles, and B 1903, who also won 7 championships themselves when they came together in 1992 to form FC København. They used the license that B 1903 had to immediately join the Danish Superliga, with KB becoming the club's reserve team, and within 11 days of their foundation they were playing Grasshoppers of Switzerland in the Intertoto Cup groups, a group which they would end up finishing first in. That rather set the tone for their season, as they won the Superliga in 1993, which is of course their first year of existence, although they spent the rest of the 1990s hovering around mid-table and going through managers at quite a rapid rate, employing 8 between 1994 and 2000. One of them, Christian Andersen, who had proclaimed himself as the best manager in Denmark, lasted for just 75 days and apparently 1 game after creating friction within the squad. That's Frank de Boer levels. 8 of them came under the guidance of Hazzabhajan over 2 separate spells, a former player who actually collapsed on the pitch after suffering a heart attack whilst playing for København in 2001, and despite being pronounced clinically dead, doctors were able to revive him. In 2010-11, he became the first manager to take a Danish team into the knockout stages of the Champions League, as København came second in their group behind only Barcelona and ahead of Rubin Kazan and Panathinaikos, and the most successful European campaign besides that was undoubtedly in 2019-20, when they progressed to the Europa League quarter-finals but were knocked out by Manchester United courtesy of a Bruno Fernandes penalty, also with Hazzabhajan as manager in his second spell in charge. Number 4. Kaizer. I could be wrong with what I'm about to say, but as far as I'm aware, this is the first team in this series thus far who still exist and don't actually play in their respective country's top flight league, as Kaizer currently find themselves in the Zweite Bundesliga, having finished 6th last season. Like København, they were also formed by virtue of a merger, although in their case it was from 2 teams who had undergone about 3 or 4 mergers each beforehand, and to explain them all in about 20 seconds would be way too convoluted and confusing. The upshot was that KFC Phoenix Karlsruhe and VfB Mühlberg, who both been part of the regional Gauligen and Oberligen for the best part of 2 decades, came together in 1952 to form Karlsruhe, and they immediately became a force, winning the DFB Pokal in 1955 and 1956, the year they lost the national final to Dortmund, and winning 3 Oberliga Süd championships up until 1960. They were inaugural members of the Bundesliga in 1963, although from then on until the late 1980s, they bounced between the top and second divisions on a regular basis, seemingly being too good for the Zweite Bundesliga, but not good enough for the actual Bundesliga. That changed from 1987 until 1998, when they managed to maintain their place in the top flights for that length of time, even reaching the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup in 1994, knocking out PSG and Valencia along the way. However, they were relegated in 1998, and they've only returned for 2 brief seasons between 2007 and 2009, even dropping to the 3rd tier for the first time in their history in 2012, and then again in 2017. But as mentioned earlier, they've since re-established themselves back in the 2nd tier, hoping to push on and make that long-awaited return to the Bundesliga before too long. Number 5. Kashima Antlers. With a name that literally translates as Deer Island Antlers, with the region of Kashima being, perhaps unsurprisingly, famed for its deer shrine, which has raised deer for over 1,300 years, Kashima most definitely haven't wandered about like Bambi on ice, especially in the last 3 decades. They were formed as Sumitomo Metal Industries Factory Football Club in 1947 and barely made a splash during the amateur era of Japanese football, only playing in full top-flight campaigns up until 1992. However, when Japan professionalised football that very year, they changed their name to Kashima Antlers, dropping the corporatism from their name, and recruited Brazilian legend Zico, as well as constructing Japan's first ever roofed stadium to prepare themselves for the change. Zico couldn't guide them to any silverware, but he set the foundations for their future success, even returning in 1996 as a technical director, the year that Antlers won their first ever J-League title. They've taken part in every J-League campaign to date and only finished below 9th once, back in 2012, and they've picked up 8 league titles too, which is double the tally of 2nd place Yokohama F. Marinos, although they've only won 1 since 2009. Their finest hours were in 2000, when they became the first team to do the domestic treble in Japanese football history, and in 2018, when they won the AFC Champions League for the first time in their history after beating Iranian giants Persepolis in the final. Once again though, they are way off the pace in the league in the current 2021 season, 19 points off top spot and sitting in 7th at the time of recording. And that just about wraps up today's video, looking at 5 of the best clubs whose names begin with K. If you enjoyed this video, of course, don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already, plus you can ring the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a video straight away. And as I said at the start, if you want to check out any of the other episodes I've done in the Football Alphabet series thus far, the playlist link is in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.